Alright, so I'm trying to do this. Yeah, let's see. So, photography. So, I've tried doing stuff like that in the past and really tried to wonder what the heck, what does it mean for me and can I enjoy it and stuff like that. And I think I'm starting to. I mean, it's kind of taken some time for me to get serious. Well, I'm not even that serious about it, right? But I'm just starting to do things and trying to do so regularly. And so, took some photos and, realistically kind of enjoyed it a little bit, right? So like one of the place that we went to here recently was Starr's Mill, right? And I essentially got 4 photos from Starr's Mill, and then we got one photo of a new vehicle, right? So my wife Nicole, she ended up getting a truck. So I took a photo of her new vehicle, right? But anyway, yeah, so, Starr's Mill Park, starting to figure it out. So I'll pull up the first photo here. First photo really was, I wanted to try a black and white edit, right? And just see what happens there. And, kind of get to see the actual building, which interesting note about this building, the thing that I know about it, and there's a lot to it, right? Obviously it was an actual mill way back in the day, but also really where it comes into mind for me was the fact that it was in Sweet Home Alabama, the movie, right? And so the glass shop from that, essentially, that's where I know it from, right? And so that's how I knew. It's like, oh, it's Sweet Home Alabama shop, but really, I had moody black and white photo. I did do some sky edits just to not have it be basically all white, right? And so I did some sky editing to make sure that the sky was kind of moody there, but you can see a lot of the shadows. You can see the trees and the water. Like, I just think this is a pretty interesting, black and white rendition of it. And so here, the next photo then, I wanted to did it for an angle, right? Give more of the water, more of the falls type of a thing. But then, make it colored, right? Step out of the black and white space, go back to a color photo. And so here, you can see we up the contrast quite a bit, right? So we up that, and then, we really slowed it down to get, some of that classical water effect, and got some of the red and the blue in there. And so, really kind of, made this one pop a little bit, right? And then the next photo was take a step back, get the building, right? Let that be, if the water and the sky and stuff like that in the previous ones, in this one it's like, let the building be the star, right? Let the red pop. And so that's really what I was doing here, was trying to find a way to get the red to pop on the actual building itself, and I think we did a pretty good job there, right? Gives a really wide perspective, and so it really gives kind of that off, and so you're able to see that whole perspective there, but really kind of pops, I think, and yeah, the sky, not much going on there, right? But it does kind of contrast with everything else going on. One, I got a photo of my wife and the dog. Interesting little story about this. I guess they were walking along the bank, and what ended up happening was my dog's dumb, and he wasn't paying attention, and he walked directly into water. So anyway, his name's Bruno, but Bruno doesn't like water, and so it really caught him super off guard when he ended up doing so. You can kind of see his feet down at the bottom is very, very wet and very muddy, and he really stinked. Stank? I don't know, stunk. He stunk. That's the word. And it's not it was not a fun car ride home from that standpoint. But yeah. And the last one was just a more of a directly from camera type of a look. A little bit flatter, a little bit more, I'd say a little bit more true to life than anything. But kind of shows just kind of the wide view of where we were at, and kind of gives you the whole perspective of what the Starr's mill was. And then moving on to the truck photo, this was something where it didn't really make a whole lot of sense, but I thought, hey, we can make the truck stand out. Really use that red, that newness, that shininess, to pop out against all of the greens and the browns of the yard and whatnot. And so here you can kind of see some of that, really kind of getting that red to pop. And, didn't really do a whole lot with the sky and stuff like that, but really just wanted to, get what I thought was an interesting viewpoint. I'm sure it's been done a million times before, right? But, really get some contrasty and get that red and that color in that moment in contrast with everything around it, which I thought was kind of cool.